So, welcome everyone to week 2 of SpeechDojo's Summer Challenge event. Today, we are very excited to have with us today Georgina Chang, who is incredibly successful radio and television personality, well known as a presenter on Channel V, ESPN Star Sports, and Singapore's #1 media company, Mediacorp. So, welcome, Georgina.
Thank you, Hedy, and thank you, Megan.
Yeah, so to start off, we were very drawn to your story about how you started off as a teenager, kind of nervous to be on the radio, and then built up your confidence over time to really build up a successful career in television and media, interviewing celebrities such as Harrison Ford and J Lo. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and your story?
So I started in radio when I was 18 years old. I heard the ad on air and I just thought, hey, why don't I just go for it? So I went for it. I showed up. I had no idea what to expect, but I think that was an advantage because I went in with enthusiasm, naivety, innocence, but a lot of energy. I didn't have fear going for it. And I believe that's why the bosses at the time felt that I was different from the others that they had interviewed. And they brought me in, and it helped that I spoke fairly well. So that was an advantage. And from there, from doing radio, then I started doing television. And it's different. And people often ask me, which do you prefer, radio or TV? And I always say both. They're very different in how you speak with your audience and how you connect with your audience. With radio, it's very intimate. All they hear is your voice. With television, you need to be a lot more animated, a lot more energetic. And you also need to connect with them visually. So both are different, but I really enjoyed both.
Mm-hmm. We love that. There's so much that we can learn from this story. A more general question we have for you: what was the largest challenge you faced in the process of kind of being able to become confident when you communicate, and how did you overcome it?
Confidence is something that I realize now. No one's born naturally or not naturally confident. It is our social conditioning, our family background, our cultural conditioning as well, and life experiences that make our response to ourselves and make our belief as to whether we're confident or not. It's just a habit of how you behave. Do you behave in a confident manner or do you not? It's a habit. And right now, as I coach people, it's kind of helping them to unlearn the habits that they had about being unconfident. Does that make sense? Because
Mm-hmm.
as a child, children are generally not, they don't even understand the concept of confidence or not. They just learn. They watch and they learn. And that's what happens to our lives. We watch and we learn certain habits or behaviors that make us seem confident or not. So for me, I didn't have the experiences of being unconfident. I don't recall many experiences of that. It's the opposite. Many times when I did things, being the youngest child, I didn't have the heavy responsibility of looking after siblings. I could just do what I want without fear or without hesitation. So for me, that came a little bit more naturally. But of course, when I started working in media, then I realized, oh my gosh, this is totally different because now there are other people involved. There's like, in my mind, it's millions of people listening to me. So then that puts me in a different space. And I had to, on the fly, of course, learn to be in control of the situation. That's what it is. When you are in control of the situation, whatever it is, when you are certain of what you're doing, that's where your confidence arises. So, of course, the first time I went on radio, the confidence was low because I was like, this is new. What am I doing? But the more I did it, the more comfortable I was and the more confident I got because that came from the competence. And that's the other area you learn. When you're competent at something, that's where you get confidence. So with public speaking, in fact, public speaking is anytime you speak in front of people. It doesn't need to be on the media. You speak up in a meeting, you speak up to your boss, you speak up to your lecturer, you speak up to your teacher, you disagree with friends. That's speaking up, that's public speaking. And the more you start to learn how to do it, the more they say practice, right? The more you do it, the more you start to get competent at it. And that's when you start to gain that confidence. And that's something that I learned throughout my years. The first thing is the competence. The second thing about confidence is being focused. And I struggle with that because I tend to be distracted easily. I tend to get, very excited about the next new project and the next new thing. With confidence, you need a lot of focus. So when you're focused, and it goes in line with competence, that confidence starts to grow a lot faster. And one more thing I want to add, as a learning tool, whenever you go up and you speak in a, whether it's a public situation or speak out in front of people, those nerves that you get, the nervousness, and I would describe it as people feel their hearts beating very fast. You can feel your breathing's kind of suddenly very shallow, or you're breathing, short breaths. Your stomach, the pit of your stomach may feel like, ugh, it's uncomfortable. You need to go to the toilet. You feel the butterflies. Maybe your hands start to tremble a bit. Your throat goes a bit dry. All these are physiological reactions to the nerves. And this is actually a good feeling to have. I hear a lot of people saying, I don't want this feeling. Oh, I wish I don't have to go through this. It's how you are viewing these feelings of nerves. You're thinking of it as a horrible thing. Oh, it makes me feel terrible. But your body is just reacting to that excess adrenaline of the nerves. And that excess adrenaline can be used to help you stay very focused on that thing you're about to do, that public speaking, because you have to be very focused on what you're about to say so that your mind doesn't wander and then you forget what you're going to say and then you kind of go, oh no. You see how it goes? So that excess energy is helping your body stay very focused in this moment. It goes back to our own biological reactions, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I mean, when a saber-toothed tiger was charging at us, you're not thinking about, oh, look at that berry. I wonder if it's edible. You are going, there's a tiger, there's danger. You're hyper-focused on it and you're finding ways to run or hide or, do things to survive. So that energy helps you to be very focused at the task at hand. So use that nerves and look at it as something that's helping you to be very, very focused so that you can be very, very good at what you're about to do. I hope that's making sense for you. And I hope that was gave you a different perspective and gave you some value on the whole sense about being confident. And the final thing I'll say about being confident, it's a combination of your mind, your body, and your emotions. When all three are aligned, that's when you can have very comfortable confidence.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really interesting how you also mentioned like using your nerves and being able to use that for something that's a good thing as opposed to, kind of impacting your performance in a negative way instead. Yeah, that's really great. So, in a field like media and entertainment, when you're on the stage or you're in front of the camera, it must be really hard, and because of the negativity and haters out there, particularly with the rise of social media, I think is a really kind of prominent thing that's affecting our generation specifically. So, how would you suggest dealing with haters and projecting confidence even if you hear something that's perhaps really hurtful to you?
So this is something that I went through myself, being in the public eye at a young age. And years later, when I was managing the younger DJs and the younger TV presenters and the artists who came in during the time of social media. In my time, there wasn't, but then when I started managing them, social media amplifies it, right? Because it's so easy for someone to hide behind a keyboard and just send a nasty message. You suck. You're worse than my grandmother. You get stupid comments like that. So I would say that the first thing is, of course, it's hurtful. Yes, acknowledge that it is hurtful. You will feel the sting naturally, right? For various reasons. But the preparation starts before all that happens. So a lot of people think, oh, being famous or being well known or being in front of the camera or having my social media account where I'm putting myself out there, that's very cool, that's very nice. And it is. It can bring a lot of benefits for you. But before you start doing that, start getting prepared in the background. It's always about preparation and background. Don't just put yourself out there without warm up. It's like an athlete without warming up. So your preparation are things like your inner, I don't want to get too woo here, but it's like your groundedness of who you are. And I understand that as a teenager, we're still finding our identity. We're still trying to understand who our friends are. We want to be part of the in group. You want to be, in a sense, a little bit admired, a little bit looked up to. And I would tell you that this happens throughout your life. Even people in their 40s, 50s, 60s still want to be looked up and admired to. So that's a journey that'll be for life. But as a teenager, start preparing your inner groundedness. And you do that by really understanding yourself. No one can understand yourself, only you. And there's several activities and different ways of doing it. One of the things that I would say that's very good and it's so accessible now, I'm going to say the word meditation. I didn't like it as a teenager. I couldn't understand it. I had heard about it, I read about it, and it's about sitting down and emptying your mind and not thinking of anything. Impossible. I couldn't do it. But now I understand that meditation is something entirely different. It's not about emptying your mind and not thinking of anything. That's impossible. It's about being in control of what you choose to think. And there's a great app that I use. I mean, there are many apps which I tried, like Calm and Headspace and all the different ones. But the one that I really like is Insight Timer, because that one has, I think, to date, maybe over 20 over 1,000 different types of meditations. Now, not all of them are good because it's uploaded by people all around the world. These are people in the meditation space, but there are some really, really good ones. There are many really good ones. And it ranges from whether it's just pure sound healing to guided meditations, to affirmations, to even talks. So there's something for everyone. And I found this so much easier because day to day, my mood and my needs change. So every morning I listen to one. This morning I listened to Affirmations for Success. It's a very short 6-minute affirmations. And you just listen to it because it helps your subconscious mind to start being primed. On another day, yesterday, I was listening to something more calm that was helping me to raise my vibrations by focusing on my chakras. So that's a little bit different. So every day I use that to sort of prepare myself, to ground myself internally. And it's only when you are able to do that, it's that sense of being comfortable with yourself, being comfortable alone. So you're not always depending on external validation. It's being comfortable on your own. The second thing to do is to be very clear about why you are, whether it's putting yourself out there, whether you are applying for a job at a radio station, whatever it is you're doing. Know why and what is your passion and reason for doing it, so that when someone says, "Oh, you're terrible, you're awful," you know why you're doing this. And you know that when it invokes a negative reaction in someone else, you know you're on the right path. Because people will not respond to you if you were boring, you were flat, you were, really nothing. But when you're starting to rise up and it irks them, and that's the third thing. A lot of times the haters, the trolls, people who criticize, it's because of their own insecurities. When they say negative, nasty things, it's a reflection of what they're feeling about themselves and their lives. Someone who's feeling very positive about life and feeling very good would never take to the keyboard and write nasty things. Never. They'll never say anything nasty. It's the ones who are feeling lousy about themselves. So you must remember that. Now, even knowing that, you still feel the sting when you get a bad comment. Of course you will. But then that's when your inner groundedness comes in, and then you realize that it's from their own insecurities. It helps you to get over it much, much faster. And these are things you have to keep remembering and preparing yourself before that. Because the more you put yourself out there, the more negativity you're going to get. Of course, you're also going to get accolades and applause, but they both come together. The darkness and the light, they both come together. So be prepared for that. And the final thing I'm going to say about criticism, always have an open mind, because there's a difference between haters, and then there's a difference between criticism when it comes from people who care, or people who see something in you and want you to get better. Have an open mind to listen to it, especially with someone who has a lot of experience, that you have regard for, that you look at them and you go, okay, I kind of want to be like them, or I kind of admire what they do. So you take that criticism with an open mind to see where you can adjust. And you listen to it. I mean, obviously, it's not to say that someone who is in a space they admire doesn't have a bad day and sometimes there's things that's a little bit negative. So it's for you to kind of learn how to read through that criticism and see what you can take out of it. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. Being in tune with yourself and kind of accepting and building yourself up will definitely set such a solid base. And then it comes easier. You can tell the difference between constructive criticism and someone who's just trying to bring you down. Now, bringing this over a bit more to our audience that we target, in your opinion, what are some actionable communication tips or strategies you have for the job searching journey, particularly the interview process?
Okay, interview process, very interesting. The first thing is really you have to be prepared. When I say prepared, you have to know what you're going to say and what you want to say. When you go for an interview, yes, the interviewing manager would have questions lined up to ask you. But I would also say, don't let them drive the conversation. You can change the conversation too. You can drive it so that you talk about the things that you want to showcase. Because remember, an interview is a showcase of yourself. You want to show what your strengths are. You want to show the very positive, powerful side of yourself, depending on what you're interviewing for. So first is the preparation. Know what are the things that you want to talk about. The second thing is you must research the company. I've had so many interviews where the person came and they had no idea, they had very little idea what we did, very little. And for example, there was a time when I was managing all these A-list celebrities in Singapore, and they come for the interview, and I asked them, so which are your favorite celebrities? Who do you know? And I was managing about 75 celebrities at the time. If I included radio DJs, 120 radio DJs as well. So it's 120 of the top personalities in Singapore. And I asked them, who are you a fan of? And they kind of go, and right off, I know that they didn't research, they didn't really look at the profile, they're not familiar with these top personalities. They didn't spend that time knowing what they're going to do, because I was interviewing them to be a celebrity manager, and they didn't even know the celebrities. So that's like a real letdown. I didn't even ask them about, what do you think of the company mission? It wasn't that. So it's just very basic things, and you'll be shocked. It wasn't just one or two people who came unprepared. So you want to be very clear about what the company is about, what are the values that they have, and you want to see that aligns with you, so that at least when they talk, you kind of know whether your hiring manager has the same values, right? So because you also want to make sure that that person is right for you. So know what you can offer. And when I said drive the conversation, there's always going to be some sort of question that asks you about your strengths, right? Because they want to know that. So don't just say things like, I'm the standard answers, I'm punctual, stuff like that. Give them something that gives the hiring manager a clearer picture of you. Because remember, that interview is very hard to fully get a sense of you unless you let them. Remember, you are the one letting them get a sense of you. So actually, don't think the power is in the hiring manager's hands. Because if you go there and you're going to be all nervous, don't let that happen. You got to know that you are the one who's going to allow them to see as much of you as you want. So let's say they ask you about what are your strengths, or what are some of your positive contributions in where you work. It's going to be along those lines. If you already know, prepared what your strengths are, you can start talking about it, but not in a way of, I know a lot of people feel a bit uncomfortable talking about strengths. Speak about it in a context. Talk about what was the situation, what you did, and how you showed that strength in that situation. So it's clearer to the hiring manager what you're talking about, instead of saying something like, oh, I'm always very positive. So those are the things that you want to be able to take some control of the interview. And the last thing I will also say, if the interview is going good and you sense a little bit of can I say the word rapport, or you can sense that the hiring manager, and you can tell, they're asking you questions, they're smiling, you can tell that they're quite interested in you, because the answers are not just and it's not a short interview. So you can sense that it's going good, and you feel that you really like this, where it's going. Ask them, because if they're good, they'll say, oh, do you have any questions? And even if you don't, always say, may I ask a question? Ask them. For me as a young person, how can this role, or how can this job or role or position help me to grow? So ask a question like that. I mean, you can do different variations of that, but a question like that, number one, it will give your hiring manager a good impression, because this person is looking to grow, this person is looking to get better. But it also gives you an idea, a clearer, even more information about what this role is about, or what this team's going to be like, or what the hiring manager is going to be like. And then you can make a decision from that.
Yeah, that's amazing. You shared a lot of really actionable tips there. I'm sure our audience is going to gain a lot of value from that. So thanks so much. So the question we have here now is, what is the process, because you have a lot of coaching clients, particularly a little bit more on like the senior manager side, but I think we can probably gain some value from what you do with them. So what is the process that you usually take your clients through when they come to you looking to improve their confidence or their communication skills?
So every person is so different and so unique. I have a framework, but it's very customized to each person. But some of the must-do things that I work with all my clients, the first one is breathing. A lot of people don't realize that breathing, something as simple as breathing, really changes how you speak in so many ways. And I recently also had a client, as I was trying to take the person through the paces of, it's a very simple breathing exercise, and they were not used to it because they were never conscious of their breath. So I kept pushing every week, because when you are in, and the person actually asked me, what does breathing have to do with presenting? And I, in frustration, right? So I had to say, when you can control your breath, number one, you can control your mind. Because when you're in a tense, nervous, anxious situation, your mind is racing, and it's racing towards things that aren't going to help you. So when you're breathing, it actually slows your mind down, and you can start to refocus it. Remember I talked about focus? It can start to help you to focus your mind back to what you need to. Breathing also calms your emotions down. When you're nervous and tense, the breath actually calms it down, and you can have better mastery of your emotions. And breathing physiologically, it can actually slow down your heart rate. And I do it every morning. I do a very simple breathing exercise every morning when I wake up, and I have a little like a timer that I put on my wrist, and it checks my heart rate, and I bring it down to about 55. The resting heart rate is 60 to 90. My general resting heart rate is about maybe 70, 65, 70, 75, depending. But when I do my breathing, I bring it down to about 55. Once it went down to 49, I'm like, whoa, that's too low. But I try and bring it down every morning, just to calm it down, to start the day, bringing the heart down so that it's just a bit lower. And that's a process of bringing your whole body into called a parasympathetic nervous system. That's when your body is very calm, very relaxed. It's the ideal state to digest your food. So everything's moving very nicely. So that breathing, can you imagine if you are able to, on demand, be calm? Who wouldn't like that, right? And you can. It's by breathing exercises. That's a must do for everyone that I work with. One of the other things that I work with my clients is, because remember what I talked about, your inner groundedness? It is about your your inner self-awareness. That's one of the big things that I spend quite a bit of time taking them through it. And you'd be surprised, even people in their 40s and 50s are not fully self-aware because they've never they never thought about it, or they never met someone to make them go through it in the intense way that I do. And and one of the things that I love doing is drawing strengths out of people. And that's my job. I've been trained for it for so many years. And it comes naturally to me when I work with someone. I can spot their strengths and I can show them the lens that I'm looking at so that they go, I never knew this was my strength. And it's very empowering to realize that. And I see the eyes light up when they go, wow, something that I thought I didn't have, I actually have it, or I thought was a weakness, actually it can be a strength. So I work with them on that deep self-awareness, just to get them very, very centered. So these are two of the big things that I spend time on, apart from others, of course.
Yeah, those are two great ideas. Are definitely new to me, and I'm excited to put them into use, especially the breathing ones.
I could
And we
take you
have,
through I could take you through a very simple breathing exercise at the end of this to close the interview.
oh, sounds good. We have just one last question for you. What do you think is the one thing people overlook the most when it comes to portraying themselves authentically while trying to be confident at the same time?
It goes back to what I really believe in, and this is my philosophy in communication. It's pretty much the same. It's very the same framework. People, when you want to be authentic, whether you're trying to be confident or calm, whatever it is, that authenticity, and I'm trying to find another word for it because it's such an overused word, but I can't find any other word. So now I started using the word, it's about projecting your inner essence, because that's very unique to you, right? So it's your inner essence, and that's what you're about. And once people can sense that, they can sense that you're genuine and sincere, and they genuinely will just trust you a little more because they can feel that it's not fake, you're not putting on an act, you're not trying to be something you're not. People can sense it, right? So I think most people overlook that sense of knowing their inner essence, knowing their inner core, that self-awareness, their identities, all these factors people overlook. And once you find you have that, you know that your inner self-awareness, it's very natural to project your authenticity, and that confidence comes naturally because you're not trying to be someone else and putting up it's very natural. You I'm not going to say be you, and and this is a phrase that's bandied around very often. People say, oh, just be you. What does be you mean? Because the you, the me that I am when I wake up too early in the morning before my coffee, is very different from the you, the me that I am after I've had a nice big lunch. It's very different. The you that I am before I'm about to do something that I've never done before is very different from the you, the me I am when I'm about to do something that I've been doing for years. So what does be you mean? I mean, it's a catchphrase that people bandy around, but honestly, I didn't quite understand what be you means until I broke it down. It's about that inner essence and projecting it. And you can't be you if you don't know, if you don't have the self-awareness and know what your inner essence is. So that's something I think a lot of people overlook, and they try and put on, and they say fake it till you make it. Don't ever fake it. Don't fake it. Don't fake it.
Hmm. I really loved all the advice you gave us today. I've been used to seeing all those kind of surface level tips people give that's kind of all over the internet. But then this stuff it's all about like, it just comes back to yourself. So thank you so much for all the time and effort you put, taking the time out of your day to share your knowledge with us. We really appreciate it.
Sure. Would you like to do a quick breathing that I always take all my students and even webinars I do? It'll just take like a minute, and it's something that you can practice in the morning. This is what I do in the morning. And it's very simple. There are many, many breathing exercises. This is the simplest. And I always share simple techniques because then you can remember it and then you can do it. So this is called box breathing. And you can even search for it online. And it's a very simple way to start. You breathe in for 4 counts. You hold for 4 counts. You breathe out for 4 counts. And then you hold for 4 counts. So there's variations. You can breathe in for 6 and then breathe out for 10. So you can vary, there's the number can vary, but I'm just going to start with the simple, keep it at 4. And this is just to have that evenness and helps you to be very aware of your breath. Okay, we'll just do 3 rounds. The first round is just to kind of get a sense of it. The second round is to get used to it. The third round is then to just enjoy it. Okay, so if you do it with me, I just want you to lean back and relax. Okay, you can shut your eyes, and I invite everyone to do this as well. Okay, and just when you're ready, just take a normal breath. Breathe in, and always in through your nose and out through your nose. And when you're ready, we're gonna breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and just breathe normally and just sense how your body is feeling now. And enjoy that feeling. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
I can
How do you feel?
feel like my head is kind of more clear. It's a very relaxing feeling.
Yeah, I really love that. Very enjoyable.
Yeah. And every time I take people through it, and I always ask how do you feel, and people go calm, relaxed. Because we don't do this, in a normal day. But when you take, and all it took was like, I think about a minute, and you just do this, and it just calms you down. It resets, as you said, Megan, it resets your mind. And then you can start the next task with a clearer mind. So especially if you're going for, let's say, meetings to meetings, you're rushing through, or going from class to class and rushing through, just take that minute, stop, do your breathing. It resets you so that when you go for your next class, your next meeting, your next project, you're a lot fresher instead of being frazzled and hassled.
Yeah, love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Georgina. I'm definitely gonna use some more breath work as I go about my day from now on. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I love being part of this, and happy to join you guys today.
Yeah. Thank you.